Part 112. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1111. This is the beam cannon that has been transformed by the Bree tribe. This is not the first time that these beam cannons have fired. They have already established many merits. After all, there are many powerful races on the original star, and Wang Feng and his men are also training soldiers, so they did not suppress all the opponents. The defensive fortress has also fought countless defensive battles. Now each of those beam cannons is controlled by a defensive warrior or a warrior from the 2nd or 3rd Legion, so the accuracy is definitely not a problem. Originally, the warriors of the 2nd Legion did not need to control the beam cannon. After all, they are strong men above level 5 and are also a powerful force on the battlefield. But now the opponent is the Cosmic Ghost. The battle with the Cosmic Ghost must be based on warships and fighters. The soldiers of the 2nd Legion are definitely not as skilled as the expeditionary soldiers in controlling small fighters, and their air combat experience is also insufficient, because Wang Feng can no longer give them too much life energy to squander and practice driving. Even if the consumption of small fighters is less, once it is distributed to the huge base of the 2nd Legion, it is also a very terrifying number. Seeing the defensive fortress launched an attack, the battleships of the Space Ghost did not dodge, but directly rushed up with the energy shield, and at the same time, emitted countless energy beams and started shooting at the defensive fortress. And the small fighters following the large space battleships of the Space Ghost also left the energy shield range of the space battleships and rushed directly to the defensive fortress. Haha! They are coming fiercely. Duanlei looked at the battleships of the Space Ghost outside, laughed softly, and then issued an order to the communicator. All beam cannons shoot small fighters and shoot them all down. No need to save. After receiving Duanlei's order, the light spots fired outward from the defensive fortress became more dense. The original beam cannons, when firing outward, fired long energy beams, but now the beam cannons of the human race have changed after being transformed by the Bree people. It no longer emits long beams of energy, but energy spots. Although it seems that the power is not as strong as before, the way the Bree tribe uses it is to compress the energy. Therefore, not only the power is greatly increased, but also the energy consumption is reduced a lot. Especially for small fighters, which are large in number and small in size, this kind of light spot is obviously more suitable. Especially the compressed light spot will explode directly after hitting its target. Therefore, small fighters without energy shields will be completely scrapped if they are hit by a light spot. This attack initiated by the Cosmic Ghost without any tentative attack from the moment it entered the battlefield, it was extremely fierce. Above the human defense fortress, the war was spread out, artillery fire flew, and the wreckage of small fighters fell down like rain. The expeditionary soldiers did not attack at present, but waited quietly in the small fighter, because Duanlei knew that if they were to compete in air power, the human race was far from being the opponent of the Cosmic Ghost, and the number of warships was too far apart. Even though the human race has a much better control method than the Cosmic Ghost, its individual combat power is definitely higher than that of the Cosmic Ghost. However, the elephant can be killed by many ants. The human race cannot compete with the Cosmic Ghost with its limited resources. Therefore, the human race's small fighters must be kept at the most critical moment before attacking. Now that the war is in the consumption stage, Duanlei will never let them join the battlefield. In such a chaotic battlefield, once the fighter is shot down, it is difficult for the pilots inside to escape. Even if the expeditionary soldiers have mastered the ability to fly freely in the air, they will definitely not be as flexible as the fighters. Of course, there is still an exception among the human race, that is Wang Feng. After Wang Feng issued the order before, he quietly left the control hall and handed over the command of the entire battlefield to Duanlei, but he came directly to the outside of the defense fortress. However, when Wang Feng appeared, he was at the edge of the defense fortress. For such a huge defense fortress, Wang Feng's appearance was like an ant next to an elephant, and no one paid attention to him at all. Especially now that they are still in the middle of a fierce battle, with energy shields, flying energy beams, and fighter wreckage. Even if there is suddenly an extra space battleship next to the defense fortress, as long as they don't actively attack, I'm afraid no one will be able to find it for a while. Wang Feng looked up at the sky and found that no one was paying attention to him, so he took out a small fighter directly from his Xianyuan space, but this small fighter disappeared as soon as it was taken out, and Wang Feng disappeared with it. This small fighter is Wang Feng's secret weapon. After the Kali tribe successfully installed the stealth system for the defense fortress, Wang Feng mentioned it to the blue-eyed old man and asked them to try to install this thing on the small fighter. The blue-eyed old man would naturally not refuse Wang Feng's request, but installing a stealth system on a small fighter is even more troublesome than installing it on Wang Feng's Yanhuang, because the stealth system needs to occupy some energy output channels of the energy shield, and the small fighter has no energy shield. However, installing this thing on the Yanhuang was not very useful to Wang Feng, because even if a huge space battleship was installed with a stealth system, it was not very useful. Although it could be used for ambush, the interval between switching energy shields from stealth was too long. Therefore, unless the enemy could be killed in one blow, it would be a waste of food. Therefore, Wang Feng insisted on having a small fighter that could be invisible. This was the most useful thing for Wang Feng. After continuous experiments and modifications, the blue-eyed old man and the red and blue helmet finally helped Wang Feng get two small fighters that could be invisible, but there were only two of them. It was unlikely that there would be more because a key material needed for the stealth system was no longer available. Not to mention that when they were studying how to make the small fighter invisible, they had already left the level where the Kali tribe was. Even if they stayed there, they would not have much courage, because the blue-eyed old man said that they knew that Wang Feng would definitely be interested in the stealth system, so they brought all the materials out, and now the Kali tribe themselves no longer had them. If they were in the outside world, they could get this material, but now they are in the endless tower, there is no way at all. However, two small fighters that can be invisible are enough for Wang Feng as long as he uses them carefully. Moreover, this kind of small fighter, which is only used by Wang Feng, is not very useful to others. Just now, Wang Feng teleported into the small fighter at the moment he took out the small fighter, and then made the small fighter invisible. Fortunately, the speed of invisibility is quite fast, only 1/5 of a second, so it seems that no one has noticed it. Even if they have noticed it, they probably think they are dazzled. This stealth technology is the latest invention of the Kali tribe. Even in the original star, no other race knows it, so the cosmic ghost certainly doesn't know that this world actually has such a magical technology. After making the small fighter invisible, Wang Feng drove the fighter directly to the distance. He did not directly enter the battlefield, because during the invisible period, he could not use weapons, because the energy fluctuations of the weapons would make the stealth effect invalid. As for the power system, there is no problem, especially in the current chaotic battlefield, the energy fluctuations are extremely strong, and the power of a small fighter will not be noticed at all. After leaving the battlefield, Wang Feng began to pull up the small fighter. For safety reasons, he did not even start the radar of the small fighter, but only retain the most basic power system. In this way, the consumption of the small fighter was reduced to the minimum, and the probability of being discovered by the warship radar of the cosmic ghost was naturally lower. This is also because Wang Feng originally had the sky eye, so at this distance, there was no difference to him whether there was a radar or not. When the small fighter was pulled up, Wang Feng found that in the distance, there were still a large number of space battleships flying towards this direction. It seems that the cosmic ghost intends to deal with the human race at once this time, without giving them any breathing space. There is actually a reason for the cosmic ghost to do this. Not to mention that they are now in the Endless Tower and must decide a winner. Just talking about their old grudges, it is not easy to resolve. The cosmic ghosts almost destroyed the human race's home planet in the outer universe, and the human race directly killed all their people on the original star. Now that the two races have met, it must be a situation of no end. Because they are space battleships, their speed is quite fast. Not long after Wang Feng saw them, these space battleships had already arrived here and directly joined the battle. Tens of thousands of space battleships were fully fired, constantly pouring energy beams towards the defense fortress. This scene is quite spectacular. Wang Feng can't even see the energy shield of the defense fortress now, because the entire defense fortress has been completely submerged in the energy beam of the beam cannon. The location of the defense fortress can only see a huge semicircular light ball. Wang Feng frowned. Although there are a lot of energy reserves in the defense fortress now, it is obvious that the cosmic ghost warships have begun to concentrate their fire to attack in order to consume the energy reserves of the human race. If they continue to consume like this, they may not be able to hold on for too long, so they must think of a way to change the current situation on the battlefield. Wang Feng had already prepared a targeted tactic, and now was the time to test it. With a sneer on his face, he drove a small fighter plane and approached a space battleship at the rear. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1112. When approaching the space battleship, Wang Feng was not very fast. Although he had tested the small fighter he was currently driving with a human space battleship before, he knew under what circumstances the best stealth could be achieved. The effect, but after all, the technology of the cosmic ghost is different from that of the human race. Who knows whether their radar will be more advanced than the human race? Especially at that time, even if Wang Feng wanted to use the cosmic ghost's radar to test it, it was impossible because their only warship from the cosmic ghost, the Hope, had been dismantled by the goblins and integrated into the defensive fortress. There is not even a scrap left in the entire battleship, let alone a radar. So Wang Feng must be careful now. This is his first battle after using a stealth fighter. No matter what, he cannot make a mistake, especially now that the situation of the human race is not very good. Under such powerful firepower, the human race can only able to fire back with beam cannon. In the current situation, sending the Hope warriors out is simply a matter of death. The moment they fly out of the energy shield, they will be reduced to ashes by the energy beams outside the energy shield, without even a chance to escape. Moreover, Wang Feng has the clearest energy reserves in the defensive fortress. Judging from the current strength, the defensive fortress should be able to sustain for about 15 days. After all, there are more than 10,000 space battleships, and countless the small fighter plane was consuming the energy of the energy shield unscrupulously. Now Wang Feng couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Sure enough, he listened to others' advice to eat enough. When he saw some people among the human race dying due to aging, Wang Feng once proposed to extract all the life energy stored in the defensive fortress. Come out and turn those humans who died because their lifespan is approaching into strengtheners. In this way, their crisis will be temporarily relieved. However, this opinion was strongly opposed by Duanlei. The only people standing beside him at that time were Lu Feng and Shen Yishan. Needless to say, Shen Yishan would certainly agree with anything Duanlei said. Lu Feng is because of his own personality. In his life, only his own life is the most important. Although after confronting Wang Feng, his personality has changed and he can die for many people. But at least these people do not include ordinary people. Lu Feng once risked his life to save Wang Feng. Wang Feng absolutely admitted this, because not even Duanlei knew about the potion that saved Lu Feng, let alone Lu Feng, so he definitely risked his own death. Mentality, to save Wang Feng. But for those ordinary people, Lu Feng obviously didn't care that much. In fact, If the deaths of these ordinary people would not be included in the death list of the human race as a whole, Lu Feng would not worry about their lives. But even if he knew that those people would die, they would be wiped out together. Lu Feng still stood firmly by Duan Lei's side and voted against it. According to what he said at the time, it was these life energies that belonged to the human race. The trump card, and the trump card, is of course the last thing that can be shown to others, and it's obviously not that time yet. If you reveal your trump card too early, even if you are the protagonist, you will fall because of it. You are not a bodhisattva and can't save the world. This is what Lu Feng and Wang Feng said back then. Of course, the person who finally made Wang Feng give up this idea was not Lu Feng, nor because of his words, but because of a person who was very important to Wang Feng, a person who basically said anything will be executed by Wang Feng without hesitation. That person is naturally the instructor Li Yingning. Among the entire human race, including the third master Fuxi, Dong Huang Tai, Duan Lei and Lu Wanting, the persuasion of these people is not as good as the instructor's words. Perhaps it is because of the shadow left by the instructor when he was in the army. It was because of the instructor's behavior after joining the Hope Base. Anyway, no matter what the reason was, Wang Feng always subconsciously felt that the instructor's words were absolutely orders that must be carried out. At that time, the instructor Li Yingning said something to Wang Feng. People's survival, sometimes, or most of the time, depends on their own instincts. Only those who can choose to follow their own instincts will live longer. Instructor. What is instinct? Wang Feng looked at Li Yingning and asked. Instinct? It's actually very simple. When you are hungry, you want to eat. When you are sleepy, you want to sleep. When you have diarrhea, you want to go to the toilet. Li Yingning looked at Wang Feng and said softly. You are the best soldier I have ever led, but your weakness is that you act emotionally instead of following your own instincts. Think about it for yourself, Lu Feng and Duan Lei, are they the same person? One is known as the most murderous bloody hands butcher, and the other is known as the wisest military advisor of Hope. Why are they on the same side? Wang Feng was stunned. Why? It's simple. Because they want to live. Li Yingning looked up at the sky, put his hands behind his hands and said. People like them will have a terrible intuition. It's just that Lu Feng is doing it so that he can survive, well, or rather, he does it so that both himself and you can survive. As the strategist of the entire human race, Duan Lei hopes that all humans can survive, at least more than half of them. From this point of view, Lu Feng and Duan Lei have the same idea. And you? Having said this, Li Yingning looked at Wang Feng, shook his head slightly and said. Because you are the leader of the human race, your list is much heavier than theirs. All they want is for the continuation of the human race, but what you want is for all humans to successfully climb the endless tower, even if you know it's impossible, but you still do it. What's even more frightening is that you don't realize this at all. Li Yingning walked forward slowly and patted Wang Feng on the shoulder. Actually, you also know that the method they say is the most reliable. As long as you make a start, then no matter who is behind, when he is about to die, you will use your life energy to save him, but you also know, this is impossible, the base of the human race is too huge, you simply can't save everyone. It's just because you have either acted alone or with the Guardian Warriors since you first established the Hope Base, so you have already subconsciously believed that as long as they rely on you, you have the responsibility to save their lives. You can do this, but have you ever thought about it? When you use all your life energy on these ordinary people, what will you use to fight against our enemies at the next level? Li Yingning suddenly raised his head to the sky, smiled softly and said. I didn't expect that I would say so many words. This can be regarded as one of your achievements. Anyway, there are only so many words to say. How to decide is up to you. Watching Li Yingning's retreating figure, Wang Feng thought for a long time, and finally he gave up his idea. Li Yingning was right, he really cared too much, because Wang Feng's previous wish was to continue human civilization. But now Wang Feng thinks about it, if he really consumes all his life energy, he can only turn at most 1/10 of the people into enhancers. For the entire human race, this is simply a drop in the bucket and cannot afford it. To a decisive role. Maybe that would make the number of human deaths appear to be much smaller, from the current close to 10% to about 3%, but what about now? Without the support of huge life energy, under the concentrated fire of such a powerful fleet, the human race would definitely not be able to survive for even one day, and would lose its energy shield due to exhaustion of energy. Under such intensive artillery fire, without the protection of the energy shield, Wang Feng knew what the defensive fortress would look like without having to think too much about it, so he was secretly glad now. Of course, Wang Feng piloted the small fighter plane, not here to play, but to open a breakthrough in the current battlefield. Wang Feng knew that with his own strength, it was impossible to defeat the cosmic ghost this time. Attack, but at least relying on his stealth fighter, Wang Feng can create some chaos among the team of cosmic ghosts. After approaching a space battleship of the space ghost race that was relatively far back and the surrounding space battleships were far away, Wang Feng carefully piloted the small fighter plane and slowly approached its jet hole. Because although the small fighter plane Wang Feng is currently flying is invisible, if Wang Feng teleports out directly, it will cause energy fluctuations in the surroundings, and may be captured by the space ghost's battleship radar. The jet hole is the power of the space battleship. The privacy around the jet hole is naturally the place where the energy fluctuations of the space battleship as a whole are the strongest, except for the main gun. However, because Wang Feng has now shut down most of the systems on the small fighter plane, leaving only the power system and stealth system, the energy consumed is quite small and can basically be ignored, so the space battleship in front of him, still happily firing at the human race's defensive fortress, with a momentum that will never give up until it is broken. After Wang Feng slowly approached the power system of the space battleship and parked his small fighter plane next to it, Wang Feng suddenly smiled and looked at the huge space battleship of the Space Ghost tribe in front of him. He said to himself thoughtfully, "Should we capture it or destroy it?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1113. Wang Feng was entangled in dealing with this battleship for only 2 seconds, because after looking at the space battleships in front of him, he suddenly felt that it seemed unlikely to capture this battleship, because the battleships in front were all space ghosts, and it was impossible to break through. If this space ghost battleship was put into Xianyuan space, all the space ghosts inside would need to be killed. Now Wang Feng definitely did not have that time, and as long as he passed through the energy shield, the space ghosts in this space battleship would be sensed, so Wang Feng decided to kill it directly. As for the space ghost battleships, he would find a chance to collect a few more in the future, so that the human race could have more space battleships. Although the role of space battleships in the space of the Endless Tower is not as great as in the universe, it is better than nothing, right? Slowly driving the small fighter, passing through the energy shield of the space battleship, and then immediately teleporting to the outside of the small fighter, casually putting the small fighter into the space, and then teleporting again, entering the space ghost battleship. Since the small fighter plane driven by Wang Feng caused the energy shield to fluctuate when it passed through the energy shield, the cosmic ghosts in the space battleship immediately began to check if there was anything abnormal around the battleship. However, because Wang Feng's previous speed was too fast, they did not find Wang Feng at all. However, despite not finding anything, the captain of this cosmic ghost battleship still sent a signal to tell his fellow tribesmen about the abnormality that had occurred here. As soon as the signal was sent out, the captain of this cosmic ghost found a human standing in front of him, and there was a huge long sword in his hand, which chopped him directly. Puff! Without any room to dodge, the captain of this cosmic ghost was directly chopped into two pieces by Wang Feng's sword, and the life energy in his body was instantly sucked dry by the Xianyuan sword. Afterwards, Wang Feng's figure flashed and killed all the cosmic ghosts in the control room of the space battleship. Then he came to the control console again and directly inserted the Xianyuan sword into the energy slot of the space battleship to absorb the life energy stored in this space battleship. At the same time, Wang Feng directly input a set of instructions in front of the space battleship's console, cancelled the energy shield of this space battleship, and accelerated directly to hit the nearest other space battleship. Although when this space battleship was attacked, other space ghost battleships immediately received the signal, but because the distance between them was too close, there was no time to evade, so the space battleship controlled by Wang Feng directly hit the other space battleship in front of him. Boom boom boom. A series of huge roars sounded, and the two space battleships of the Space Ghost directly exploded due to the violent collision. The fragments of the battleships were carried by the shockwave generated by the explosion and flew in all directions. The space battleships around the explosion area were in trouble immediately, because the wreckage of the space battleship did not belong to energy attack, so their energy shields could not protect their battleships, and the hulls of many space battleships were damaged. Wang Feng, who had already hidden far away, secretly felt sorry because he had teleported outside the warship before the two warships collided, and then drove away in a small fighter. If he was nearby now, he would definitely be able to expand the results of the battle by taking advantage of the chaos among the injured warships. However, there was no other way. Wang Feng did not dare to stay in the explosion area. Although he was confident in his skills, he was still afraid that his small fighter would be damaged. There were only two small fighters that could be invisible. Once damaged, Wang Feng would have no place to cry. However, not being able to take the opportunity to attack those injured space battleships does not mean that Wang Feng cannot attack other space battleships. Therefore, Wang Feng, driving a small fighter, flew directly in another direction. Using the same method, Wang Feng crashed into 4 space battleships again, that is to say, after Wang Feng took action, he had killed 6 space battleships of the Space Ghost. In particular, when Wang Feng took action, he specifically chose large space battleships to attack, so the shockwave of the explosion was also quite strong, causing considerable damage to other space battleships. As for those small fighters, many of them were destroyed. Without energy shields, they were not hit by the wreckage of the space battleship, even the violent shockwave could directly destroy them. This is why Wang Feng had to leave quickly before the space battleship collided, and did not dare to stay at all. However, although Wang Feng's battle results can be said to be quite brilliant, it also attracted the attention of the cosmic ghosts. They have now changed their formation, and all the cosmic ghost warships have begun to disperse, and the distance between each other is getting farther and farther. When Wang Feng entered a cosmic battleship again, he suddenly found that if he wanted to choose a cosmic battleship to collide with it like before, it would no longer be possible. Just when Wang Feng was hesitating whether to leave the control room of the space battleship first, kill all the space ghosts in other places, and then seize the space battleship, a strong sense of crisis suddenly came over him. Wang Feng thought without even thinking about it, he slapped his hand on the console to activate the energy shield he had just cancelled, and then immediately teleported away from the space battleship. Boom! A huge fireball appeared again. Looking at the fireball, Wang Feng broke out in a cold sweat. He was just a little bit close to being destroyed together with the space battleship. Unexpectedly, the Space Ghost was so decisive. After realizing that the space battleship was controlled by Wang Feng, he started to focus fire directly on the space battleship regardless of the large number of his own people on the space battleship. Although Wang Feng immediately activated the energy shield of the space battleship after feeling something bad, the energy reserve of the space battleship had been almost absorbed by Wang Feng. In addition, it was absorbed by many space battleships. It concentrated fire with the small fighter plane, so its energy shield did not last even 3 seconds before it was directly shattered. After losing the energy shield, the space battleship was directly destroyed in the next moment. Wang Feng didn't even have time to use the small fighter plane just now. He teleported continuously and fled away as fast as possible. Even so, he was still affected by the aftermath of the explosion. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured. Coupled with his powerful self-healing ability, it basically did not affect his combat power. However, because he did not fly a small fighter plane, Wang Feng's position was directly exposed to the cosmic ghost. After discovering Wang Feng, the Space Ghost warship stopped attacking the defensive fortress. They all turned around and launched an overwhelming attack on Wang Feng. The energy beam actually directly enveloped an area of nearly 10 miles around Wang Feng's location. So cruel. Wang Feng was shocked. At this distance, his teleportation could not avoid those energy beams before they arrived. If he was hit by these energy beams, even if he had 10 lives, he would have to answer here. Boom! Countless energy beams exploded in the area where Wang Feng was, and even a crater was blown out of the ground. When those energy beams disappeared, the area was empty. Even so, the battleships of the Cosmic Ghost still did not give up and continued to fire energy beams towards this area. After all, Wang Feng had already exposed his ability to become invisible before, so the Cosmic Ghosts felt that they were not sure about this level. Anyway, the defensive fortress of the human race is there and will not escape. It is better to kill this human race first. Although there is only one person like this, his ability is really abnormal. Therefore, the Universe Ghost believes that Wang Feng must be among the human race. A relatively important figure is worth wasting some of their energy. Boom boom boom. The Cosmic Ghost launched 5 consecutive waves of attacks against the area where Wang Feng was originally, and did not even spare the ground. When they finally stopped attacking, a huge deep pit appeared in front of them. Several Space Ghost battleships flew directly above the pit. After seeing that there was nothing underneath, they continued to fire several energy beams towards the bottom of the pit, then turned around and left, continuing to attack the defensive fortress of the human race. NND. It's so suspenseful. Looking at the deep pit over there, Wang Feng in the defensive fortress couldn't help but feel a little scared. If Doomsday and the others hadn't just used the light transmission system in the defensive fortress to teleport Wang Feng back, I'm afraid Wang Feng would have really lost control this time. It's about to die? Damn. They have too many space battleships, we can't get out at all. Looking at the cosmic ghosts outside who started to attack the defensive fortress again, Lu Feng said bitterly, this can be said to be the most frustrating fight they have ever had. Because the outside is surrounded by cosmic ghosts, their space battleships dare not go out at all, because as long as their space battleships appear outside, they will definitely be set on fire by the cosmic ghosts. With the energy shield of the space battleships, it is simply can't stop it. It will be broken in a few seconds at most. This can't go on, the energy will be used up sooner or later. Doomsday frowned and said, we have to take an adventure. After hearing Doomsday's words, everyone looked at Doomsday, wanting to know how he was going to take the risk. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1114. What are you going to do? Wang Feng looked at Doomsday and asked. Light teleportation. After teleporting out, we will become invisible directly. When they find out that we are missing, they will definitely look for us everywhere. In this way, we can take advantage of them to disperse and take the initiative to take back the battlefield. Initiative. Doomsday looked at everyone, then pointed at the big hole blown up by the cosmic ghost and said, "Originally, these three plans were not feasible, because the stealth system on the defensive fortress turned on slower than that of small fighters, with a delay of about 1.5 seconds, so it was easy to be discovered by the cosmic ghost, but now it cannot. It's the same, with this big pit, we can directly teleport into the big pit, and then directly activate the invisibility system. With the obstruction of this big pit, the cosmic ghost will not discover the location where we first teleported. But, this is very dangerous." Lu Feng frowned and said, "After discovering that we have disappeared, they will definitely go to look for us above the big pit. If they want to directly use a few energy beams like just now, even if they cannot destroy our defensive fortress, they can still expose us. Other space battleships will swarm up, and the stealth system switches to energy shield for too long, long enough for them to tear our defensive fortress into pieces." "That's right." Duanlei sighed, nodded, and said, "That's why I said we are taking risks, but if not, we have no other way to reverse the current situation. Although we still have the main guns for the defense fortress that are not used, even if they are used, they can still fight. Just losing a few space battleships is a drop in the bucket for this huge fleet. It will have no effect and will expose our trump card. I'm sure that the energy reserves of the cosmic ghost are far greater than ours. We are definitely no match for such a confrontation, so we must leave as soon as possible. Once our energy reserves are consumed too much, I think everyone can know the result." After listening to Duanlei's words, everyone fell silent. Duanlei was right. This is the fact. It has to be said that they were quite passive at this level, because as soon as the space ghost discovered them, they summoned the entire fleet. Coming to besiege them, they were unprepared and fell into a passive position. This is also because the human race was a little too smooth before, and this was the first race they encountered that actively attacked them, and they started with maximum firepower without any warm-up or testing. The current energy reserves of the human race are indeed enough to support the defensive fortress for a few days. Fortunately, the goblins and the Bree tribe have previously transformed the defensive fortress, so that their energy shield consumes very little energy. If it is like the previous one, I am afraid that it will be broken in less than half a day, and their entire army will be annihilated. Even so, they absolutely cannot wait any longer, because these space battleships in front of them are obviously a space fleet, and there are several such fleets in the Space Ghost. They must be rushing here now. Once they all arrive, if we get here, it will truly be the end of the human race. Although Wang Feng went out just now, so that the warships of the Cosmic Ghost are no longer clustered together, and the firepower attacking the defensive fortress is correspondingly reduced, but now it is obvious that the Cosmic Ghost is consuming the energy reserves of the human race. Therefore, if they don't do something, they will be no different from waiting to die. This is obviously impossible, but the method Duanlei proposes now is indeed risky. If by then, the battleships of those cosmic ghosts reach the top of the pit, during the inspection, I was not reassured. Even a random energy beam would be enough to lead the human race to the abyss of destruction. Ken. After being silent for a long time, Wang Feng suddenly spoke. When the time comes, I will attract their attention. After you use light teleportation to teleport away, I will directly take out the Yanhuang Hornet at that moment, and then lead them away. Anyway, the Yanhuang Hornet is very fast, and I can use it to fight gorillas with them. After I take them away, you should also leave here, but you must be careful not to be discovered by them and then remain invisible. Anyway, the invisible device consumes very little energy, which is enough to last for decades. Think about it slowly. There are too many Space Ghost warships. We can only slowly grind them to death. Fighting forcefully will not work. No. In this case, it is very dangerous for you to be alone outside. Moreover, if you leave in the battleship immediately after we disappear, it will leave too many traces. It is estimated that the Space Ghost will see that you are diverting their attention, but you are behind them. Just cover this area and we'll be finished. Duanlei immediately shook his head to express his objection. Don't forget, our opponents are cosmic ghosts. Their energy reserves are probably the largest among all races on the original star. They definitely have no shortage of energy. Let me think about it again. Duanlei is right, because the cosmic ghost race is an overlord-level existence that runs rampant in the outer universe. It has destroyed countless races in the outer universe, and they are ruthless and regard all other races as their own food. Therefore, they are the race with the largest energy reserves, which is definitely worthy of their name. When they were in the outer universe, one was because the power of the cosmic ghost was dispersed, and the other was because the original battlefield was in outer space, and there was enough space for Wang Feng and the others to make a detour. That's why Wang Feng was able to drive the Yanhuang to defeat the fleet of the space ghost. Now we are in the inner space of the Endless Tower. In fact, the environment is similar to that on the planet. Due to the influence of gravity, the space battleship is definitely not that flexible. This may not have much impact on the space ghost, but for Wang Feng, but absolutely fatal. Surrounded by so many battleships, if it were in outer space, Wang Feng could still rely on his driving skills to avoid the attacks of most space battleships, in exchange for the opportunity to destroy the space ghost battleship at the minimum cost, but now, it's not that easy for him. If Wang Feng followed Wang Feng's method, there might be a chance of success, but it was more likely that even if the Yanhuang was destroyed, Wang Feng would naturally not be able to escape death. That's why Duanlei was the first to stand up and object. Don't even think about it. Wang Feng still insisted on his opinion. Now we have been surrounded by a fleet of cosmic ghosts. I estimate that the fleets of cosmic ghosts are scattered in this layer of space, just waiting for us to appear. It is likely that each fleet is responsible for a piece of space area. Now that they have found us and trapped us, it won't be long before more cosmic ghost fleets arrive. Once all the cosmic ghost fleets are concentrated here, we will really be hopeless. Even if you want to escape, there is no chance. Just do what I told you, and there can be no further delay. Don't worry, it's not the first time I've fought against the cosmic ghosts. I've long been familiar with their fighting methods, so there's no danger at all. Wang Feng deliberately looked relaxed. In fact, he also knew the danger this time, but now they really had no other choice but to take the risk. All right. Looking at the expression on Wang Feng's face, Duanlei nodded seriously. He knew that since Wang Feng had decided to do this, no one could change it, so Duanlei stopped persuading him because in that case, it would be just a waste. It's just time. But, we need to be more careful, so that it is conducive to your departure, and at the same time, the ghost of the universe will not think that you are trying to lure the tiger away from the mountain. As Duanlei spoke, he was thinking about how to make this plan more perfect, which could not only increase Wang Feng's chances of escaping, but also deceive the cosmic ghosts, making them believe that the human race's defensive fortress was destroyed rather than escaped. Walk. Because only in this way can the cosmic ghost's attention be completely focused on Wang Feng's Yanhuang. Although this may make Wang Feng more dangerous, if the defensive fortress is not hidden, then Wang Feng's actions will be meaningless. And once the defensive fortress is destroyed, Wang Feng will not survive, and will be directly judged as a failure and wiped out. Old Tang. Go mobilize those soldiers and collect some discarded metals, any kind, the more the better. After a while, Duanlei seemed to have thought of some way, but because he also knew that time was quite precious to them now, he did not explain his plan to everyone, but directly started to make preparations. Lao Lu. Let our soldiers slowly start to reduce the firing frequency and bring over all our flares. Mars, Hao Shui, and Li Fei, the three of you will lead people to dig a fire pit under the defensive fortress that can accommodate Yanhuang. The space of the ship doesn't have to be too deep, just enough to put the Yanhuang ship down. The speed must be fast, so hurry up. After Duanlei sent several people away in succession, he raised his head and said to Wang Feng, "Madman, I have come up with a plan. If this plan really succeeds, the cosmic ghosts will focus all their attention on your Yanhuang, and they will also think that all the people in our human race who are still alive are inside the Yanhuang, so, you will be under a lot of pressure." "No problem." Wang Feng waved his hand casually and said, "Anyway, I'm not going to fight them, I'm just taking them in a circle. This is relatively easy for me. Tell us your plan first." Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1115. Good. Duanlei nodded and said, "First of all, Mars and the others will dig out a space that can accommodate the Yanhuang under our defensive fortress. When the operation starts, madman, you can just drive the Yanhuang and wait there. When the light of our defensive fortress is transmitted into that big pit, madman, you open the shield at the same time and leave here as quickly as possible. At that time, the cosmic ghosts should think that our defensive fortress has been destroyed by them. All of us, everyone is in the space battleship. Although it is impossible for your Yanhuang ship to accommodate all of our human race, because the space ghost does not know how many people there are in our human race, so this should be able to deceive them. Of course, before that, we still need some preparations to make a sign that our defensive fortress has been destroyed, so that we can truly make them believe in us. Those scrap metals and flash bombs are prepared for this. When everything is ready, we will turn on the main gun and reduce the intensity of the energy shield. At least let the energy shield show signs of shaking, giving the universe ghosts send a signal that our shield energy is about to run out. Seeing this situation, I think they will directly concentrate all their strength on attacking us. At this time, our main cannon will fire at the same time, and the other beam cannons will all output their maximum energy at the same time, and will flash throw out all the bullets and scrap metal. Just when the energy beam collides with the flash bomb's brilliance, we will turn off the shield, activate light transmission at the same time, and then immediately turn on the stealth system. Fortunately, it only takes less than 3 seconds to switch from the energy shield to the stealth system. Time, so the previous energy fluctuations can completely cover up the energy fluctuations emitted when we turn on the light transmission and invisibility system. I will count down the time. We must complete all of this at the same time, including turning on all the energy cannons, throwing flash bombs and scrap metal, cancelling the shield, using light teleportation, turning on the stealth system, and driving like a madman. Yanhuang, how escape from here? We must complete all these actions within 3 seconds. We must not make any mistakes, especially the timing of cancelling the shield. Our beam cannon must output its maximum energy at the same time, and the target is not the battleship of the Space Ghost, but the energy beams they fired at us. We want all these energy beams to collide above our defensive fortress. Only then can the strong light produced when the energy beams collide cover our defensive fortress, and we will not be able to miss any energy beam, because at this time, we need to cancel the energy shield immediately, activate the light transmission and activate the stealth system. These actions must be completed at the same time. If we teleport first, then cancel the shield and activate the stealth system, the energy fluctuations emitted will probably expose our defensive fortress. In that case, everything we have done before will be in vain. This plan has certain dangers. Not to mention that as long as there is a mistake in any link, we may be wiped out. Even if we don't make any mistakes, accidents may happen, but we have no other choice, because we all know that, if this continues, we will all die here. This is my responsibility. We have been going too smoothly in the past. We have never encountered someone who directly knocked on the door. Especially the opponent is the Space Ghost. Their number of space battleships is absolutely suppressing for us. This is the only solution I can think of at the moment. If anyone has anything to add, you can put it forward now. After Duanlei finished speaking, he glanced at everyone, and everyone else was also thinking about Duanlei's plan. After all, it was related to the lives of each of them. I don't have any objections to this plan, but I want to stay with Feng, and I also want to be on the Yanhuang. Lu Wanting was the first to speak. She had no opinion on the combat plan. This was not her strong point. Although Lu Wanting had participated in many combat meetings before, they were all ground defense battles. For this kind of, in other words, Lu Wanting is quite good at it. Ting ting. You stay. When Wang Feng heard this, he quickly spoke, because Yanhuang was used to attract attention, so the risk factor must be the highest. He didn't want Lu Wanting to be with him at this time. Feng. You don't need to say anything. No matter what, I will definitely be with you this time. Lu Wanting interrupted Wang Feng without waiting for him to finish. She knew what Wang Feng was going to say, but this time was probably the last battle of the human race, because if they failed, their endless road would end. Stop here. So Lu Wanting had already decided from the very beginning that no matter what kind of battle plan she adopted this time, she would stay with Wang Feng. Looking at Lu Wanting's expression, Wang Feng stopped talking. In fact, he also understood that Lu Wanting might not be optimistic about the human race's actions this time. Women are sentimental after all. No matter what happens, they seem to go in the wrong direction. Think. Well, my wife. Qiu Jian also stood up at this time. I think you don't mind, bringing me as a light bulb. Wang Feng was stunned and looked at Qiu Jian. You know. I'm not very good at air combat, because I can't even fly, and I can't drive either a small fighter plane or a space battleship, so I stay in the defensive fortress, and we can't, it has no effect. Qiu Jian continued. But it's different if we're in the Yanhuang. I think with your driving skills, madman, it shouldn't be a problem to get rid of those cosmic ghosts, but we don't just get rid of them. Our mission at this level should not change. Therefore, it is not that we have escaped the cosmic ghost and everything is fine. If we want to continue, we must kill these guys. Moreover, I want to do it here on the first floor. You probably haven't thought about killing only 40% and leaving after completing the mission, right? So I have no objection to Lei Zi's previous battle plan, but his battle plan is obviously only half of it, because after we get out of the current predicament, we still need to attack. I'm not good at air combat, but the Space Ghost is on this floor, so it should have a headquarters, right? Isn't your small fighter plane capable of stealth? I'll send it to their headquarters when the time comes. How about I go in and have some fun? After hearing Qiu Jian's words, Xiao Wu and others' eyes lit up, and then they all stood up. That's right. Brother Feng. Take me with you, I'll go too. Even many core members have come forward and expressed their intention to board the Yanhuang and go to the headquarters of the Cosmic Ghost for a tour. The instructor Li Yingning also walked out at this time, but he did not speak. He just stood directly behind Wang Feng. Wang Feng looked at the instructor and shook his head helplessly. He knew that as long as the instructor made a decision, he would don't dare to open your mouth to persuade. Okay. Everyone be quiet. Wang Feng stretched out his hand, pressed it down and said. I can take some people away. Qiu Jian is right. We should indeed go to the headquarters of Cosmic Ghost. In this way, one can distract their attention, and the other can also try his luck. Maybe then you can find an opportunity and give them something big. However, although the Yanhuang can carry a lot of people, the Yanhuang cannot become invisible. If you want to drive the Yanhuang to the headquarters of the Space Ghost, you are simply seeking death, so we can't bring many people. Madman. I'm going. Lu Feng was the first to raise his hand. You have to take me with you this time. I haven't been to the headquarters of Space Ghost yet. And me. Tang Haoshan also raised his hand and said. I'm also very strong in melee combat. I want to go too. Don't make noises. Wang Feng said angrily. You're all gone, what should we do here? When we are causing trouble at the Cosmic Ghost headquarters, you can also drive the space battleship to attack. As long as you don't take risks and are not surrounded by the Cosmic Ghost space fleet, you will not be in much danger. Of course, it's up to Lazy Eye to discuss this with you. Ting Ting, Instructor, Qiu Jian, Xiao Wu, Qianxuan, Qianqian, and Shami Sangxiao, follow me. We will work in groups of 10. After we first lure the Cosmic Ghost away, we will act separately because we communicate with each other. If you do, it will easily expose the location of the defensive fortress. But anyway, our goal is to kill the Cosmic Ghosts. Therefore, everyone should snipe as many Cosmic Ghosts as possible while ensuring their own safety. We want to fight guerrilla warfare and cannot fight head-on with them. The space of the Endless Tower is large enough. This is an advantage for us. Lazy Eye, you can discuss it with Laolu and Old Tang. I think that in fact, every battleship can be regarded as a battleship team. Spread them out. This will not only cover up the existence of the defensive fortress, but also disperse the force of the Space Ghost. Great idea. Duan Lei's eyes lit up. Yes, if all those space battleships were scattered, it would give the Cosmic Ghost a feeling of exhaustion, because they would not fight with the Cosmic Ghost. They would just hit and leave, leaving the Cosmic Ghosts. The numerical advantage cannot be used at all, and if Wang Feng and the others can successfully find the home of the Cosmic Ghost, their chances of victory will be greatly improved. I have a suggestion. Duan Lei looked at Wang Feng and said. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1116. Wang Feng looked at Duan Lei and said nothing. He was waiting for Duan Lei's next words. Even Lu Wanting and others looked at Duan Lei curiously, wondering what suggestions he had in mind. Your Yanhuang can't just carry a few people. It needs to take more people. It must even carry enough small fighters, and the combat personnel must be fully equipped. I know that your two small invisible fighters can't take many people, but Yanhuang how can do it? If you want to go to the home of the Cosmic Ghost, then we will simply burn the boat. After this crisis is resolved and all the Cosmic Ghosts here are lured away by you, I will find a place where the defensive fortress can be hidden as much as possible, and then scatter all the space battleships out. I will fully man the crew of each battleship and provide sufficient energy reserves. Anyway, if we work hard, there will be no need to keep any reserves. Then you will fight guerrillas against the space ghosts outside. After meeting them, if you can fight, fight, if you can't fight, withdraw. Anyway, space battleships are mobile and can communicate with each other. When the time comes, I will also drive a space battleship away from the defensive fortress to arrange our tactics. I will also gather all the Second Legion and let them enter. Space battleship, become the pilot of a small fighter plane. When the time comes, I will try my best to mobilize all the Space Ghost warships to create opportunities for you to attack their lair. As long as their lair can be cut off, I think we will have hope of victory in this war. You mean, to use up all our energy reserves? Wang Feng looked at Duan Lei and asked in surprise. This is not the last level of the Endless Tower. If you do this, even if we can finally win this war, what will happen next? Although the Space Ghost is the most powerful enemy we have encountered so far, but looking at the information, there are many races whose strength is not much worse than that of the Cosmic Ghost. Although they may not have as many space battleships as the Space Ghost, because the Space Ghost relies on plunder to grow rapidly, but those other races are not easy to deal with. They have destroyed all our wealth here. What will we do in the future? but it doesn't look like your style. Others present deeply agreed with Wang Feng's words. Duan Lei's plan can be said to be quite radical, leaving no escape route for himself at all. According to Duan Lei's stable character, this is indeed not very similar. It's his style, but it's a bit like Wang Feng's. Haha. Who said we can't get through behind us? Duan Lei shook his head and chuckled. I do this because I think that only in this way can we have a chance to defeat the Space Ghost. They have too many battleships and have much more energy reserves than us. This is almost impossible to solve. If we adopt conservative tactics, it is impossible to defeat them. That's why I will adopt such a tactic. As for what you said in the future, there is actually no need to worry at all. If we can defeat the cosmic ghost, do we need to worry about not having energy reserves? I think the lair of the cosmic ghost should be the place with the most energy reserves. I don't believe you will enter the treasure mountain and return empty-handed. Woolen cloth. So, if we can defeat the cosmic ghost, we don't need to worry about future energy at all. So for us now, this is a gamble. If we win, we will become rich overnight. If we lose, haha. In the next life we will just say goodbye, what's the big deal? Ha 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 ha. Gui Wuovong suddenly laughed and then said. That's right. If you fight with the cosmic ghosts, we'll never see you again in the next life. No matter what, I have to kill more cosmic ghosts to vent my anger. Our brothers who died in space are looking at us now. Woolen cloth. Good. Wang Feng also nodded heavily and said. You arrange it? This time you have full command. Our group of 10 people will be responsible for finding the lair of the cosmic ghost. The battle outside will be left to you. Yeah. Don't worry. Duan Lei patted Wang Feng on the shoulder, then looked at Lu Feng and said. When Lao Lu and the others come back later, I will redistribute the personnel. Lao Lu will follow you and take half of the expeditionary force soldiers with you. Because you are the first to pull away all the space battleships here, so the Yanhuang should it's the most dangerous, they must all be elites. And your small fighter planes must be fully equipped. In short, the Yanhuang must maintain its strongest combat power to attack. As for what to do after you leave, I will tell Lao Lu when he comes back. As for the other space battleships, after you leave, I will first move the defensive fortress to a relatively safe location, and then redistribute it, using a mixed method of expeditionary force soldiers and the Second Legion, based on the number of space battleships. Assignment, I will personally appoint the commander. As for the defensive fortress, just follow the old rules and leave it to the big man and Shan Shan. Anyway, the defensive fortress is not participating in the battle this time. Just be careful not to expose your position. Liza. This time. When Lu Qiang heard that he wanted to stay by himself again, he couldn't help but said, but then he thought about it, it was actually the same on the space battleship or in the defensive fortress, because the battle in the Endless Tower was not like when they were in Atlantis. That way, those outside are the most dangerous and those at home are the safest. In this hellhole of the Endless Tower, it doesn't matter whether you're outside or at home. If you fail, all human beings will be wiped out, even if you hide underground. Besides, Lu Qiang is really not interested in war, so he finally shook his head and said. Forget it. I'll just stay. Duan Lei smiled slightly, and then said. Come on. Let's study it first, how to do it in detail. After all, my plan is based on the premise that we can successfully deceive the cosmic ghost and smoothly transfer the defense fortress. If we are discovered during the transfer, we don't have to do anything later, because we will be dead by then. Haha. That's right. Wang Feng laughed. We need to study it carefully, don't say it's so lively, it will be funny if the cosmic ghost sees through it and kills the defense fortress. So, everyone gathered together and went through the things that were going to be done from beginning to end, including every detail and what everyone was responsible for, as well as the coordination of time, all of which were carefully confirmed repeatedly. They also studied a set of emergency plans for them in case of accidents. Soon, all the people Doomsday had sent out before came back, except for the Mars trio. Because these three guys were going to dig a pit, and it had to be a pit that could accommodate the huge Yanhuang. This task should be the most time-consuming one Doomsday had issued before. Fortunately, the Mars trio was probably not very interested in this Zhouzhan plan. They only needed to follow the order and didn't have to worry about so many things. After confirming it several times over and over again, Wang Feng and his team finally finalized the action plan. So now they just waited for Mars to finish the work and then they were ready to start implementing their battle plan, because the longer the time was delayed, the more unfavorable the situation would be for them. Not to mention that the energy shield of the defense fortress was consuming the energy reserves of the human race every moment. Let's say that because they delayed time, another space fleet arrived, which would bring great trouble to their plan, so now they must race against time. Wang Feng has now left the central control hall and arrived at the space dedicated to parking space battleships. He released the Yanhuang, and half of the expeditionary soldiers who had been waiting for a long time drove their small fighter planes and entered the Yanhuang. These half of the expeditionary soldiers are all old people in the Hope base, so it is not difficult for Lu Feng to command them. After all, when he was in the Hope base, Wang Feng was a hands-off boss, and the military force was mainly responsible for Lu Feng and Tang Haoshan. Doomsday has also gone to arrange the soldiers of the 2nd and 3rd Corps, because the plan later still needs their cooperation, and they are also the most important link. They have to directly launch the beam cannon in their hands at the same time as Doomsday gives orders to maximize the output. In order to prevent accidents, Doomsday repeatedly reminded them many times, including the direction and duration of their concentrated fire, all of which were marked in detail to ensure that they would not make any mistakes. When Doomsday was about to confirm the coordinates and duration of their attack with these soldiers for the 15th time, the Mars trio came back. Their return saved the soldiers of the 2nd and 3rd Legions. They finally didn't have to listen to the coordinates they had memorized. Crazy, why don't you drive the Yanhuang in first and see how it goes? Knowing that the space used to hide the Yanhuang had been dug, Doomsday immediately asked Wang Feng to drive the Yanhuang in to try, because there were still those expeditionary soldiers driving small fighters in the Yanhuang, so Wang Feng didn't dare to put the Yanhuang into his space again. After all, those expeditionary soldiers were all above level 10, and his Xianyuan space didn't dare to accommodate them. However, the space dug by Mars was at the exit of the ship's hold where the space battleship was docked, so Wang Feng could enter directly as long as he drove the Yanhuang out of the ship's hold. No problem, lazy eye. Get ready to start. After a while, Wang Feng's voice came out from the communicator. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1117. Doomsday took a deep breath, then turned around and looked at the people behind him. At this time, Lu Feng and Lu Wanting had already left with Wang Feng, along with the expeditionary soldiers who were assigned to the Yanhuang. They did not prepare any farewell ceremony. In fact, everyone understood that this separation might be their last separation. Since the beginning of the end of the world, these Atlanteans who have been walking along the way have finally encountered the biggest one. Crisis. However, seeing Doomsday turn around, Tang Haoshan, Gui Wuivang, Xing and others all made victory gestures to him. Even people like Dai Guo and Huang Hua, who were not usually active, also expressed their gratitude to Doomsday. Doomsday expressed their determination to win. Okay. Attention everyone, count down and prepare. Doomsday turned around, no longer hesitated, and issued the order directly, because everything had been prepared before, and the implementation of each step of the plan had been specific to the individual, so now he could issue the order directly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, start. With Doomsday's sound, the cosmic ghosts above the defensive fortress began to feel excited, because they discovered that the human race's defensive fortress seemed to have finally reached its limit, and the energy shield began to shake violently, as if it would happen at any time. Collapse. Everyone gather and prepare to attack with concentrated fire. The fleet commander of the space fleet suddenly issued an order. In fact, after discovering traces of the human race, they had already notified their headquarters, and the headquarters had also begun to transfer all space fleets scattered on patrol in other areas to here. However, due to the distance, it would take half an hour for the two nearest space fleets to arrive. I have to say that Wang Feng and the others are very lucky, because if they miss this half hour due to hesitation, when the two space fleets arrive and join the attack, the human race will be really in danger. The original order given to the space fleet was to trap the human race and not allow any human race to escape. Because they knew the combat power of the human race, the Cosmic Ghost headquarters did not expect that the space fleet could completely destroy the human race. But now, the commander of the space fleet obviously believes that he has seen an opportunity to completely wipe out the human race. Therefore, although Wang Feng's attack previously allowed them to disperse all the space battleships, this guy can no longer take care of much. Because the space battleships Wang Feng had just killed were only in single digits, it was not considered a loss at all to their space fleet. Besides, if the human race could really be annihilated, then even if he destroyed his own space fleet, even if all the battleships are lost, the Space Ghost headquarters will not blame him in any way. On the contrary, his position will be promoted. Originally, destroying the enemy in the Endless Tower was considered a great achievement, not to mention that the human race was still a race that had huge hatred against their cosmic ghosts. This kind of credit will definitely allow him to directly defeat the commanders of other space fleets, rise directly to the top, and maybe even enter the Council of Elders. The Council of Elders of the Space Ghost have considerable power, and they are very safe. They don't have to go to the battlefield at all. They hide in the safest headquarters every day, enjoy the resources they plunder, analyze the information they send back, and then giving orders to the space fleet outside. This kind of life is what their space ghosts pursue. Of course, it is also very difficult to enter the Elders Association. The current 9 elders all went through life and death, made great military exploits for the Universe Ghost clan, and entered based on their personal strength. Therefore, for their high treatment, no Universe Ghost has ever dared ask a question. Now, if the fleet commander of this cosmic ghost can successfully eliminate the human race, relying on the hatred of the enemies of the Endless Tower and the cosmic ghost tribesmen in the original star, this achievement will definitely be enough for him to enter the Council of Elders. Therefore, at this time, the commander of the space fleet did not pay attention to the clansmen who attacked them before, and once again gathered all his space fleets, and all in one direction, because if the fire energy shield is concentrated at the same time, the smaller the area, the better. It is also commonly known as the point Arankar. As for this time, he had selectively ignored the fact that if the human race that had sneak attacked them before appeared again, it would cause them a lot of casualties. Anyway, his command ship would not go to the front. Directly participating in the battle, and with 12 escort warships around him, there should be no problem with safety. Just when the entire fleet of the cosmic ghosts gathered together and prepared to launch a concentrated fire attack on the human race's defensive fortress, the human race's defensive fortress, as if making a last-ditch effort before death, suddenly moved towards their battleship group. Launched an attack, the energy light spots almost merged into an ocean, surging directly towards the battleship group of cosmic ghost. No. Humans are desperate, launch immediately. Seeing this situation, the fleet commander of the Space Ghost no longer bothered to let the space battleships adjust their angles so as to reduce their attack range as much as possible, and quickly gave orders loudly. In fact, when seeing the ferocious attack from the human race, even if the fleet commander did not issue this order, the Space Ghost would almost fire back, especially the space battleships in the middle of the battleship group, because they could not even dodge. There is no room left, so I can only rely on my own energy shield to resist. Now that they had received the order, of course, without saying a word, they launched all the artillery fire on their battleships almost instantly to intercept the energy impact launched by the humans. Boom! A dense explosion sounded instantly, and it actually sounded like a long sound. Just from the sound of this explosion, you can understand how terrifying this energy collision is. A huge light suddenly lit up, as if it directly enveloped the entire space. Whether it was the fleet of the Space Ghost or the defensive fortress of the human race, they were all swallowed up by this huge light group. When the light group slowly dissipated, a chaotic battlefield was revealed. Whether it was the Cosmic Ghost, Wang Feng, Duan Lei, etc., they obviously underestimated the power of the energy collision between the two sides. Before this, neither the Cosmic Ghost nor the human race had conducted such a large-scale energy collision, so no one knew that such a dense energy beam collision could have such terrifying power. The center of the energy beam group is in the air, but now, a bottomless pit has appeared where the defensive fortress was. It is much larger and deeper than the one bombarded by the Cosmic Ghost before. And the battleship group of Cosmic Ghost also suffered a ruthless blow and suffered heavy losses. In fact, they had never experienced such an energy collision. If they had known the result, they would probably rather defend with all their strength than use energy cannons to block the human attack. It's just that because of the previous battles, whether it was against humans or other races, generally speaking, when seeing a more threatening energy beam coming, the general countermeasure is to either use a defensive shield to block it, or just do the same. An energy beam hits over, cancelling out the energy beam on the opposite side. It's just that in the past, one or two energy beams collided, so this method seemed very effective. But this time, the quantitative change produced a qualitative change. When the energy beams of the human race and the Cosmic Ghosts collided together, they were too concentrated, and finally it actually condensed and then spread directly outward, and its power became extremely terrifying due to the previous compression. Now the fleet of the Cosmic Ghost can even be said to have been completely wiped out. Only the command ship and its frigate that were left at the rear were only knocked away by the shockwave generated by the energy explosion because they were far away. The battleship nothing serious. As for the other space battleships, they were basically all destroyed in the previous explosion. There were even many space battleships that did not even leave any wreckage, and were torn to pieces by the huge energy storm. What is going on? The shocked commander of the space fleet said with lingering fear as he looked at the wreckage on the ground in front of him. Your Excellency, Commander, this should be due to excessive energy accumulation, which has produced a change that we don't know about, so, our space battleships, are all destroyed. A Cosmic Ghost standing behind him also looked forward in horror and replied with a trembling voice. They are all destroyed, what about the human race? The fleet commander asked suddenly. In fact, he probably already had a guess in his mind, but he wanted the Cosmic Ghost around him to confirm it for him. Your Majesty Commander. The human race, must be gone too. We are in the air, so when the energy storm spreads to our side, there is still a buffer, and the human race is on the ground. Do you see it? The Cosmic Ghost behind him pointed at the huge pit in front of him and said. Even the Earth has been destroyed like this. There will definitely not be any scum left in the fortress of the human race. I think, our war with the human race is over. Quick! Go over and take a look. Although he got the answer he wanted, the commander of the space fleet was obviously still a little worried, so at his urging, the command ship flew towards the deep pit together with the frigates around him. Ha 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 ha! When he came to the bottomless pit, the fleet commander couldn't help laughing loudly. Now he finally confirmed that the human race had been destroyed by the energy impact just now. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzu. Chapter 1118. The pit in front of us is quite huge, and the huge space battleship above it looks inconspicuous. Therefore, it can be imagined that the human defense fortress originally in this position has definitely been reduced to ashes by the energy impact just now, and it is not at all may survive. You guys should look around on the ground to see if there are any wreckage that doesn't belong to us. Once you find it, let me know immediately. Let's go down and take a look first. The fleet commander waved his hand enthusiastically and ordered. Although he could basically conclude that the human race was absolutely unlucky just by looking at the current situation, after all, this matter was of great importance, and it would be best to have some evidence. Afterwards, the flagship of the Cosmic Ghost began to descend towards the bottom of the pit, while the remaining frigates stayed above and began to search among the wreckage on the ground. In fact, looking at the situation at the scene, the fleet commander knew that there was probably nothing left of the human race, and everything was turned into nothingness in the energy impact just now. However, he had already thought about it. Anyway, the human race was absolutely destroyed. No matter whether he can find evidence or not, at least he has the video recorded on his flagship. He has definitely obtained this great achievement. After descending to the bottom of the pit, the flagship of the Cosmic Ghost found nothing. Even if they sent out all their small fighters, they still found nothing, and finally had to return disappointed. Because it is the flagship, the small fighters in their battleships have not joined the battle before, including the small fighters on the frigates. It is precisely because of this that those small fighter planes are now the best candidates to search for the remains of the human fortress. Otherwise, it may not be an easy task to carefully search the bottom of this huge pit. Your Excellency, Commander. We made a discovery up there. On the edge of the scattered wreckage, we found something that doesn't belong to us. As soon as he climbed out of the deep pit, the frigates that had been searching for human wreckage gave the fleet commander a big surprise. What? Send it to me right away. The battleship commander suddenly shouted excitedly. With the evidence of the video and the wreckage, he already felt that the door of the Senate had been opened to him. Several small fighter planes flew directly towards the flagship, then entered the flagship and sent their findings to the battleship commander. When the battleship commander got the wreckage, he looked at it carefully for a long time and finally confirmed, the wreckage brought over by these small fighters, which was only the size of a palm, should indeed belong to the human race. However, there is a phenomenon that makes the battleship commander feel very strange. According to the Cosmic Ghosts who found the wreckage, they found the wreckage far away from the center of the previous explosion. All the places close to the center of the explosion where they are the wreckage of the Space Ghost battleship. At least so far, they have not found any that belong to the human race. The materials used by the human race's warships are completely different from those of the Space Ghost, so they can easily distinguish these wreckage. The reason why the fleet commander just looked at it for so long was actually to confirm whether these wreckage were there. It was produced in the explosion just now. There are traces of energy impact on each piece of the debris. It is obvious that these debris were generated after the explosion just now, and are not the garbage littered by the human race after their arrival. However, the fleet commander still didn't understand why these wreckage were in the most fringe areas, and the Cosmic Ghosts around him had no clue at all. They had no choice but to continue to let those small fighters clean the battlefield, hoping to find some more clues. Buster. I am Commander Karul of the 5th Fleet. What is your situation now? Why do I show here, that there are only a dozen space battleships where you are? At this time, a voice came from the communicator. It was the other space fleet that arrived first. Karul. My fleet is ruined. Now only my flagship and frigate are left, and the rest, are gone. Looking at the wreckage of the battleships on the ground below, Fleet Commander Bust shook his head. After all, these were his subordinates who had been with him for a long time. Now that they all died at once, it made him feel a little sad. However, This kind of the emotions were immediately driven away by the temptation of the Senate without a trace. If he had not wiped out all the human race, this situation would obviously be quite unfavorable to him. It can be said that he basically said goodbye to his rights. Even if the superiors did not punish him or demote him, he would lose his power if he lost the fleet. Never think about making a comeback. But now that he has made great achievements, he has set his sights on the Senate. Of course, he no longer needs the space fleet, so he just felt sad for his fallen subordinates for a while, and then began to look forward to his future. After becoming a senator, the situation when commanding those former colleagues. There is none left. Hearing Buster's words, Carol, the commander of another space fleet, couldn't help but be shocked. At most, 20 minutes ago, Buster was still urging the headquarters to hurry up. And he also said that the human race has been surrounded now, and they are waiting for the other fleets to arrive, and they will work together to try to focus fire to break the human race's energy shield and annihilate the human race. But before he arrived, that Bust actually said that his fleet was gone? What the hell is going on? Although the human race is powerful, they cannot kill a fleet of tens of thousands of space battleships in such a short period of time, right? You must know that since entering the Endless Tower, their Space Ghost fleet has also undergone a rectification, because before, they took their own fleet to plunder outside, and returned to the headquarters to transport supplies. Usually, their space fleet directly, basically, you can't meet them face to face. Unless you encounter a hard nut to crack, you will ask for help from the headquarters and let the Elders Council allocate other fleets to come for support. Since this situation has been going on for who knows how many thousands of years, the fleet of the Space Ghost has an inconsistent number of battleships. There are only more than 4,000 space battleships of various models, and the most powerful one has 20,000. Multiple space battleships worth nearly 30,000 people. Because each space battleship relies on the supplies it plunders to exchange soldiers or armaments with the headquarters, so if that fleet encounters a strong opponent and loses its troops, it will not plunder enough energy and supplies, then they would have lost money, so luck is also very important to the Cosmic Ghost. After entering the Endless Tower, the Council of Elders decided to use the space fleet as a unit to wait for the human race outside. Once the human race came to their level, they would immediately find them and launch an attack while their position was not stable. Annihilate the human race. Therefore, in order to balance the combat power, the Elders will reorganize all the space fleets. The number of warships in each space fleet will be about 10,000, and the difference will not exceed 1,000 at most. In this way, some people are naturally happy and some are worried. However, no cosmic ghost dares to question the decision of the Council of Elders and can only execute it according to the order. And this Bust happened to be the commander of a fleet that had less than 4,000 space battleships left, so after hearing him say that all his fleets had been destroyed, Carol's first the reaction was that Buster made a mistake in command. After all, for a behemoth like a space battleship, the gap between 4,000 and 10,000 is definitely not small. What about the human race? Carol quickly continued to ask. Don't tell me that the human race successfully broke through after killing so many of your space battleships. Humph. If the human race ran away, would I speak like this? Buster said disdainfully that although he now feels that he is a member of the Council of Elders and is the 10th Elder, he has not been truly appointed after all, so he has to answer Carol's question. However, his tone has changed a lot, as if he wants to familiarize himself with his identity in advance. Carol. What's going on with the human race? You'll know when you get there. Look, it will take you about 10 minutes to reach me. Just so you can be a witness to me, proving that, I am Buster, relying on the power of their own fleet, they completely wiped out the human race, and now there are only some remnants of them that are not even big enough to be slapped. Ha 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 ha. At the end, Buster couldn't help but start laughing wildly. Listening to Buster's voice, Carul couldn't help but be extremely shocked. Although he had never fought with Wang Feng and the others, he had also learned about the strength of these new human races from other tribesmen. It seemed that with Buster's with his strength, there is not much possibility of annihilating the human race, right? If this is really the case, wouldn't the previous tense arrangements of the Elders Association become a laughing stock? And what was the space fleet that they had annihilated by the human race before? You must know that before the reorganization, the strength of Buster's fleet was at the bottom among the fleets of the Space Ghost. It was only slightly better than the space fleet that was crippled by Wang Feng and the others. But listening to Buster's tone, it seems that what he said is not a lie. Otherwise, he would not be able to laugh after losing an entire space fleet. Could it be that the human race has broken through the endless tower in front of it? After that, the energy was almost exhausted, and this guy Buster took advantage of him here? Quick! Cancel the battle formation and move forward at full speed. Carul ignored Bust and instead issued an order to his fleet. He wanted to rush to Bust to find out what was going on. However, like Bust, Carul seemed to have forgotten the most important thing. That is, if the human race is really destroyed, why has the voice that told them that the human race has entered their layer of the Endless Tower not announced their victory yet? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1119. However, this situation cannot be completely blamed on them, because they are the Guardian race. Unlike Wang Feng and his team, after going through so many levels, they know that every time they complete a task, there will be a voice, indicating that they have completed the task and can enter the next level. The same is true for the Guardian race. If they win, then the voice will tell them that because they defeated the challenger, they have become the challenger, and will also open a portal to the next level near the headquarters of the Cosmic Ghost. After that, their journey is the same as that of the human race, because they replace the human race. In fact, the Cosmic Ghost is also a race with inherited memories, but because of the restrictions of the rules, the secrets of the Endless Road are not very clear to the commanders of these cosmic fleets, not to mention the 9 elders. The only one who has received detailed memory inheritance is their true ruler, a cosmic ghost called Lord Dika by the cosmic ghosts. This Lord Dika, in the Cosmic Ghost, is like the great prophet of the human race, but his power is supreme and he has absolute ruling power, which is a bit similar to the status of the Devourer's nest among the Devourers. Even the 9 elders have to call him Lord Dika in front of him, which is very respectful. The crazy expansion of the Cosmic Ghost and the exhaustion of the resources of the original star are just their excuses for the outside world. Regardless of whether the resources of the original star are exhausted or rich, the Cosmic Ghost will eventually go to the outer universe to plunder crazily, in fact, for the Endless Road. Because only in this way can they plunder resources, strengthen themselves, and weaken other races to ensure that they become the challengers, so they will keep chasing the human race in the outside world. Lord Dika once said that the only one who can threaten the Cosmic Ghost clan to become the challenger may be the human race. Unexpectedly, what Lord Dika said turned out to be a prophecy. Originally, according to their expansion speed and the resources accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years, becoming a challenger should be a foregone conclusion, especially after the human race was conquered by them and even the mother star was forced to flee. They lost the qualification to compete with them. Who knew that Wang Feng and his human race suddenly emerged as a new force, taking advantage of the fact that the cosmic ghosts were eager to expand and the lack of resources on the original star? There was no race that could threaten them, and they could come back for resources at any time, so they relaxed the protection of the original star nest, and actually directly cut off their nest on the original star, making them finally become the defenders. This is mainly because Wang Feng's Xianyuan space is too abnormal, and it can actually bring a space battleship into the original star. If the human race does not have a space battleship, the small fighters that the cosmic ghosts continuously return from the portal to support will definitely have the strength to protect their nest. Because of this, the current cosmic ghosts hate the human race, because in their opinion, the human race's strength is not comparable to theirs, but because of their negligence, they have a powerful fleet but cannot join the battle, leading to the final failure. Fortunately, Lord Dicka knew that they still had a chance, so he laid a net in the Endless Tower, waiting for the arrival of the human race, and as far as it can be seen, things are indeed developing in the direction imagined by Lord Dicka, if it weren't for the good luck of the human race. Because if the human race was not on the 5,000th floor when they encountered the cosmic ghost, but on the first floor, then even if Wang Feng and Duan Lei were powerful, they would never be able to save the human race, and could only watch the cosmic ghost army approaching and eventually exterminate the human race. The reason why the human race was able to hold on at the beginning was all thanks to the defensive fortress. If there was no defensive fortress transformed by the goblins and the Bree, it would be a fantasy to rely on the mutant Willow and their space battleships to resist the fleet of the Space Ghost. They couldn't even resist a space fleet. When Karul came to Bust's location, he was also stunned by the situation in front of him. The wreckage on the ground and the big pit that looked like an abyss made Karul completely confused about what happened here. Because such destruction could not be caused by Bust's space fleet. As the commander of the space fleet, he was of course very clear about the power of his own warships. Bust. What's going on? Don't tell me that you made this. Karul shouted loudly. The appearance of this abyss should be easy for Karul to guess, because he knew that Bust's fleet could not cause such a degree of destruction, so the only one who could create this abyss was naturally the human race. If it was really the human race, then it would be easy to understand why Buster, the idiot, had almost completely annihilated his fleet. But the question is, if that was the case, why was Buster still here? If the human race was so powerful, he wouldn't even have time to escape, so how could he stay here? And it seemed that there was no trace of the human race around except for his dozen space battleships and those space ghosts picking up garbage all over the ground. Karul, you're going to regret yelling at me now. Buster's slightly arrogant voice came from the communicator. If you want to know what happened and where the human race has gone, you can come to my flagship and watch a video and you will know clearly. In fact, if Buster just wanted to show Karul the video of their previous battle, he could just transmit the video directly, but he always felt that in this case, he would not be able to see Karul's surprised expression. It's a bit regretful. In addition, after watching that video, Karul will naturally understand that his status will soon be different from his, so at that time, Karul's attitude towards himself will change, and this kind of change is certainly welcome to Buster. To your flagship. Karul frowned, but looked around him. He came here with the entire fleet, and Bust only has a dozen space battleships now, so Karul is not afraid of Bust. What tricks are you playing? But what Karul is worried about now is whether Buster has been controlled by the human race and deliberately wants to go to his battleship to mobilize his space fleet. Buster, can't you send that image to me? Karul did not agree rashly, but first used words to test. Oh. Originally, there is no problem with this. However, in the previous war, my battleship suffered some minor injuries. Although it did not affect the battle, it failed to transmit data, and this video it's more precious to me, so. Buster said slowly. Of course, it doesn't matter if you don't want to see it. Anyway, after the little guys below have finished searching, I will go to the headquarters. By then, the headquarters will probably send this video to you, so you don't have to do this in a hurry. Hearing Buster's words, Karul frowned, then reached for the console and pressed it, preparing to start a video call. He now wanted to know what was going on here, but Buster, this idiot, kept covering it up. He didn't know what he was hiding, so Karul wanted to confirm Buster's current situation through a video call first. "Karul, can you tell me what's going on here?" Just when Karul was about to connect the video call with Buster, a voice came from the communicator. It turned out that another space fleet had arrived. The commander of this space fleet is called Dopura. He was originally the commander of the strongest space fleet. However, due to this fleet reorganization, his space fleet suddenly shrunk by 2/3. Originally, he also knew that the first one to fight the human race here was Buster's space fleet, and from the situation at the scene, it seemed that Buster had suffered heavy losses, so Dopura now also wants to know, here, what exactly happened, and how did that terrifying abyss appear. But because one is the strongest fleet and the other is the bottom fleet, Dopura looked down on Bust before. Especially after this fleet reorganization, Dopura was even more angry with Bust because he thought it was because of idiots like Buster that his fleet shrunk, and Dopura's space battleships at the time were directly assigned to 5,000 Buster. In Dopura's view, this of course meant that Bust had robbed his own space battleship, so after arriving here, Dopura did not pay attention to Bust, but directly asked Karul. After all, the battleships led by Karul were relatively powerful before. During the fleet reorganization, nearly 10,000 space battleships were separated, so Dopura and Karul did not have any grudges. Dopura: "I'm also asking Buster about this, but this guy hasn't told me yet." When Karul saw Dopura coming, he felt a move in his heart and retracted his hand. Since Dopura was here, then, let him do this. Anyway, he looked down on Booth Special, so he directly directed the fire to Buster. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1120. Snort. After hearing Karul's words, Dopura snorted coldly, and then directly connected to Buster's communicator. "Buster, what is going on? Where are the humans? Tell me quickly, if the opportunity to pursue the humans is delayed because of your delay and pretense of mystery, let alone your position as fleet commander, even your life may not be saved." Ha 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 ha. After hearing what Dopura said, Buster suddenly laughed. His laughter surprised Dopura, because Dopura's space fleet has long occupied the position of the first fleet of space ghosts. Therefore, among the cosmic ghosts, Dopura has always been the most arrogant one. As for Buster, his fleet ranking was too low. Before those two space fleets were crippled by Wang Feng and the others, Buster's space fleet was absolutely at the bottom. Therefore, in front of Dopura, Buster's space fleet was at the bottom. Ste is basically in a state of not daring to speak. Now Great Euler discovered that this Bust actually laughed more arrogantly than himself, especially when the laughter seemed to be directed at him. He couldn't help but feel furious. Just when he was about to speak, he heard Bust say, "Dopura, you don't have to worry about this for me. No matter how much I delay, I will never waste the opportunity to pursue the human race, because we have no human race to pursue now. As for what is going on here, I have just told Karul. If you want to know, come to my battleship to see it. Otherwise, wait for my fleet to clean up the battlefield and then go back to the headquarters to see it." Snort. Dopura snorted coldly, and then said, "Okay. I'll be here right away, but let me remind you in advance that if you dare to play tricks on me, the Senate will not be able to protect you." After the words fell, Dopura directly started the video call. Although he said he would be here soon, his title as the commander of the First Fleet was not false. Although his character may be a bit arrogant, he never did it. Nothing reckless, on the contrary, this Dopura appears to be very cautious in real matters. This is also the reason why his space fleet, after sweeping away the planets of so many races, suffered minimal losses. Because Dopura was connected to the video communications of the two flagships Karul and Bryce at the same time, when Bryce accepted the video call, Karul and Dopura saw Bryce and behind him at the same time. Situation in the control room. Burgess, are you still with Bryce and not becoming the captain? When the video was connected, Dapper did not talk directly to Bryce. Instead, he looked at a cosmic ghost next to him and asked. Ah. The cosmic ghost, whom he called Burgess, couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, then bowed and said respectfully, "Dear Sir Dapper, I prefer to be the captain. I think it would be good to stay with my brother. Besides, I am Bugs, and my third brother is the captain of a frigate and is, executing my brother's order, no more here. This Burgess is the younger brother of Bryce. There are 3 brothers in total, and they are all in the same space fleet." He originally wanted to say that Burgess was looking for the remains of the human race, but then he suddenly thought that his brother had never said anything about the human race. Things that had already been destroyed by them were changed temporarily. Oh. After hearing what Bugs said, Dapper nodded and said, "Maybe I misremembered the names of you 3 brothers. Okay. I'll come over now. Bryce, prepare what you want to show us." After the video was connected, Dopula paid attention to the situation on the other side and found no signs of being threatened by the cosmic ghosts. But Bugs's words dispelled his doubts. He did not remember the name of Bugs wrongly. He probably called it wrong just now. If they were hijacked by humans, then Bugs, even if he is a pig, should not correct his mistake at this time. "Don't worry, you will see a spectacular scene." Bryce nodded and smiled, then looked at Carul's screen and asked, "Carul, are you coming?" The arrival of Dapper made Bryce even more happy. Thinking that the commander of the First Space Fleet, who had always been a bit arrogant, would show a shocked look in front of him, Bryce was full of expectations. As for Carul, it doesn't matter if he comes or not now, because even if he doesn't come, he will still see Dopura's shocked expression through the screen. At that time, I'm afraid he will regret why he didn't come. "I'll be right over too." Carul replied that he had naturally seen through Dopura's previous test, and he did not find any sign of Bryce's flagship being controlled, especially when he saw the siren on the console. The green light was still flashing, and Bryce's hand was near the siren button. If they were being held hostage, Bryce would have time to press the siren and warn them. Since Bryce has not pressed the siren now, it means that he is indeed free. "Okay. Then I'll wait for you." After Bryce finished speaking, he cut off the video communication directly. Since Carul was also coming, there was no need to continue the video communication. "Humph. After you watch the video, I'll see if you still dare to talk to me like you do now." After turning off the communicator, Bryce sneered and said confidently. At this moment, in the sky, Wang Feng was looking down from the invisible small fighter. Just when the energy was about to collide, Wang Feng suddenly felt that the situation seemed bad. Duan Lei, who was directly above him, obviously realized the danger from the energy fluctuations in the air. Originally, they planned to wait until all the energy exploded and the light was at its peak to start the light transmission, but at this time Duan Lei made a prompt decision and immediately carried out the light transmission without lowering the energy shield of the defense fortress. It was Duan Lei's order that saved the human race. If they were a little later, or if they turned off the shield and activated the stealth system at the same time as planned during the light transmission, the defense fortress without the protection of the shield would definitely be blown to ashes, and the human race would naturally be truly annihilated. At the same time Duan Lei left, Wang Feng had teleported directly outside the Yanhuang, and without saying a word, he put the Yanhuang into his Xianyuan space. At the same time, he also took out a small fighter equipped with a stealth system. While putting away the Yanhuang, he started the fighter and rushed forward directly. Because when Duan Lei asked Huaxing and the others to dig a hole, he only asked them to dig out a space that could just accommodate the Yanhuang, so when Wang Feng started the small fighter, it was basically parallel to the ground. It was precisely because of this that Wang Feng barely escaped this disaster. Fortunately, Wang Feng reacted quickly and put away the Yanhuang directly and replaced it with a small fighter, because in a static state, the start-up speed of the small fighter is definitely far beyond the remainder of the huge space battleship. If the Yanhuang was used, it would definitely not escape the coverage of the light group produced by the energy collision, but if the small fighter was used, Wang Feng would take a great risk. Because now there are many expeditionary soldiers in the Yanhuang, they are all level 10 warriors. Once their energy exceeds the limit that Xianyuan space can bear, not only will Xianyuan space collapse, but all the expeditionary soldiers, including Wang Feng, will be instantly torn apart by the space turbulence and completely disappear from the world. But Wang Feng had no choice before. If he didn't do this, maybe he could escape, but the others in the Yanhuang would all perish here, even if Wang Feng wanted to take them away with a small fighter. Because only Wang Feng himself has teleportation, he can instantly enter the small fighter and drive the small fighter to escape from this area. He has no time to open the hatch of the small fighter and let Lu Feng and others enter before leaving. Especially because the situation is urgent, Wang Feng has no time to tell them in advance what he is going to do. Even if he only says one sentence, he doesn't have to leave. So he couldn't warn the expeditionary soldiers to restrain their energy fluctuations and try to suppress them to the lowest level to avoid the collapse of his Xianyuan space. He only had time to shout "play dead" to the communicator. Then he teleported out directly. Wang Feng was gambling by doing this, because if he didn't gamble, only he could escape. What about gambling? Either everyone dies together, or everyone lives together. In fact, for Wang Feng, this choice doesn't need to be thought about at all. He knows how to choose completely by instinct. After all, Lu Wanting is also in the Yanhuang, and the instructor Li Yingning, Lu Feng, and half of the expeditionary soldiers. Wang Feng certainly can't give up these people, even if he knows that Xianyuan space may collapse, he doesn't hesitate at all. Fortunately, the expeditionary soldiers reacted quickly and had strong understanding ability. Although they only heard 2 words, they immediately knew that there was an accident. Although they didn't know why Wang Feng asked them to play dead, their long-term discipline made them all fall into the cabin of the small fighter without hesitation and pretend to be dead. In fact, they only need to control their own energy fluctuations, and there is no need to coordinate their actions. However, because of their actions, Xianyuan space did not collapse. Although, Wang Feng felt that the energy that Xianyuan space had to bear seemed to be close to its limit.